Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Tuesday, February 16th edition of the MMAOB Daily Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Adam Martin, and I'm joined by my co-host here on Tuesday mornings, Mr. Cole Shelton. Cole, how's it going, man?
I'm doing well, man. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Crazy card in the weekend, obviously. We've got another one this weekend, Cole. 15 fights to preview, so it's going to be a hell of a breakdown show today. We're here for a full hour with you guys, so it's going to be fun. I didn't get you on yesterday, Cole, because I had Marcel obviously doing the recap. Is there anything you wanted to talk about for UFC 258? Obviously, it was a pretty nuts card, great main event. Anything that was a talking point for you coming out of the card?
Just Usman, man. Like, he's becoming this dominant champ where he's running out of options. Like, I saw some people, the only thing I want to mention is I saw some people saying, like, oh, Leon Edwards should get the shot. Leon Edwards does not get a title shot. The guy hasn't fought since July of 2019. Like, I don't get how you think he can. Nate Diaz fought like more recent than Leon Edwards. Like, that's what's crazy. And everyone's like, oh, but yeah, like, I'd rather see I don't really care for the Masvidal rematch, but I'd rather see the Masvidal, Covington, Wonder Boy. Like, I'd rather see all those fights for Leon Edwards because he hasn't fought since July of 2019. I
actually wrote an article for MMA Ratings, probably come out today, hopefully. And I put there's 5 options I wrote down, Cole, for Usman. And the first 3 were actually rematches, because those seem like the most exciting fights right now. Masvidal, Covington, and Edwards. Everyone keeps forgetting Edwards is a rematch. He beat him 6 years ago. Mm-hmm. I was looking into that fight the other day. It was a close fight. It was 29-28. Close, but he won that fight. So, yeah, I'm with you, Cole. I mean, I did make that comment yesterday, but Edwards, it's just because of timing. Right now, Edwards doesn't have a fight. Usman needs a fight. That's what I was saying. But I'm with you. I mean, he hasn't fought in almost 2 years, man. He needs to get a fight and just get some ring time, Cole. Like, you can't not fight for 2 years, come back unless you're GSP and win the belt. It's very difficult to. So I'm 100% with you. Tyler's here with us. Hey, Tyler. Good morning, man. Anything else from the card, Cole? I mean, it was a pretty good card. GSP came out yesterday.
Yeah.
GSP did an interview with my boy JD Bunkus at Fan 590. He tipped me off Sunday night. He's like, "Yo, I'm talking to GSP in the morning. You want to do this article?" I was like, "Yeah, I do." So Cole, I literally listened to it on the radio and transcribed. I was not able to go back and listen to anything, but I got everything, man. So I banged it up. I was happy about that. I know the article did really well too. Basically, GSP said he's not interested in Usman. He's not motivated by him. But it's not because of Usman necessarily himself being a bad fighter or anything. GSP spent the whole interview praising him, saying, like, this guy's an amazing fence wrestler. Like, he's got a great jab. The problem is, Cole, and I agree with GSP completely, he's like, why would I, like, uproot my family, move my coaching staff to another country where there's no COVID-19 travel restrictions so I could train for this camp, only to fight a guy who's, like, 7 years younger than me that might beat me? Like, there's no benefit to it, Cole. I think you'd agree with that too. Even though I'd like to see that fight just because I think it would determine the greatest welterweight of all time. If I'm GSP, I'm not coming back to fight you. Yeah. You too, right? You agree? Yeah.
The only fight I see GSP come back for is Khabib.
Yes. You know, actually, he did talk about that in an interview, Cole. He said basically, like, it's been 2 years since we talked about Khabib with the UFC. And at the time, I was interested. UFC wasn't interested. Now they're the ones interested, and I'm not interested. So it's like, I think Cole, I do think after COVID, there's a possibility they could, like, come together financially for that fight. But right now, I don't see it happening. Jamie Gidley is here with us. Hey, how's it going, Jamie? Morning, Adam and Cole. How's it going, man? Okay, so we obviously have a crazy card to talk about this weekend, guys. UFC Fight Night Blaydes and Lewis. Cole, give me your thoughts on this card while I set it up here.
Yeah, obviously not the best card. Obviously, the main event's really good. The co-main event, I think they could have done a few other fights, like Ketlen, Vieira, Yana, Kunitskaya. I don't really expect that to be an entertaining fight. Like, I don't know why you wouldn't have done, like, one of the heavyweight fights, like Oleinik, Daukaus, or Arlovski, Aspinall, just because there's good chances of finish there. Or even put, like, Phil Hawes and Imavov in that spotlight, because I think one of those guys ever wins, that's going to get a big push. So I don't really understand it, but it's an okay card. Like, there's definitely been better fight nights. I think these next 2 fight nights are on the weaker end of it, just all building up to 259, because, like, I still don't understand why the UFC had to stack it that much, where you could have just spread some of those prelim fights onto 258 and onto these cards.
I'm with you. I actually don't mind this card, though. Like, I did a lot of deep digging last night. I stayed up all night, guys. Like, I barely slept. I was just all night looking at these newcomers. There's a lot of newcomers in this card. I was really digging into them. So we'll get into this card. I do want to take Drake's question. Our boy Drake Riggs is in the chat. This is one of the most underrated journalists right now covering MMA, guys. What's up, dudes? Does Usman ever surpass his GSP's title defense record? Is he retire before then? I go with the latter, assuming he keeps winning or doesn't get baited into the super fights. And he says how Derrick Cole those are legit, I guess, bantamweights. Great question, Drake. I don't think so, man. That's a lot of title defenses. You know, he started late. Actually, that was what GSP was saying. He's like GSP retired now. Where Usman is right now in his career, that's where GSP retired the first time after he fought Hendricks. So whatever Usman does from here on out in welterweight, GSP never had that opportunity because he stepped away from the sport after he beat Johnny Hendricks, but I don't think many of us thought he won that fight. So to answer your question, Drake, I think he either has 9 or 11. I think it's 9 actually. So he's going to need 6 more or 7 to break it. I got to be honest, Cole, I don't see that happening, man. That's a lot of title defenses. There's a lot of tough fighters he's going to have to go through. What do you think?
I think Usman doesn't even fight that 6 more times.
You think he goes to middleweight?
No, I think he retires. This guy's talked about his knees being shot, like his back being shot, like it's a struggle for him to get up in the morning to even go train. Like I think eventually his body's just gonna break down. His body is already breaking down. Like that Joe Rogan interview from like 2 years ago, he already said like he's contemplating retirement because his knees are shot, his back is shot. Like he can't do anything with his daughters. Like I think eventually he's just gonna realize like his body physically can't do it anymore.
Yeah, but I mean, right now, Cole, at the height of his game, like, Burns making a ton of money doing it. I don't think he's going to step away anytime soon. But to answer Drake's question, I can't see him breaking GSP's record. Like I feel like that's a tough record to break. I think someone could do it. The problem is Usman started fighting the UFC when he was 27. That's a little bit later than a lot of guys. You know, I'm not saying that's old, but compared to a lot of guys. Anyways, you guys during the show, feel free to give your comments and picks for these fights in the chat, and any other questions we'll answer them throughout the show. Okay, so let's start with first fight in the card here, Cole. And it is a short notice bout between Rafael Alves and Pat Sabatini, who is filling in for Mike Trezano. And right now the odds have Alves minus 190, Sabatini plus 165. And I give a shout out to Best Fight Odds. They updated their website. It looks really good, Cole. A lot more different odds they're available to look at. So give me your pick in this fight, Cole.
Yeah, it's something interesting. I had a hard time picking this one just because I'm not really too high on either guy. Like, I think Alves, I picked against on the Contender Series. That was obviously a good win against Alejandro Flores, but I still have a lot of question marks. Pat Sabatini, I think if this was a full camp, I'd pick Pat Sabatini, but him just coming on short notice, I have to go with Alves. I just kind of worry what Sabatini's cardio is like. I wouldn't be surprised if Sabatini can get him out of there. He's really slick on the ground, some real good knockout powers. They're both very similar styles where they're both jiu-jitsu guys at heart who just want to get down to the ground, but they both have some knock power on the feet. But I'll pick Alves. I just think his cardio is going to be the difference because I do worry about what Sabatini's cardio is like taking this fight on 6-7 days notice.
Yeah. I looked for tape on both guys. There's not a ton out there. Sabatini, I think, has some fights on Fight Pass, but Alves, his recent fights are difficult to find. You could find his fights from a few years ago, but I wonder how much he's changed since then. Overall, though, I mean, I liked what I saw from Alves. We saw him at Contender Series. He's pretty well-rounded, and he's got a good submission game. He's not afraid to go to the ground with anyone. I think he's a little bit more well-rounded than Sabatini, who I believe is basically a BJJ expert, and he's very good in the ground. We've seen that. You look at Sabatini, he's a very physically strong guy, a lot of finishes on the mat. I just feel like Alves is going to be able to match him on the ground, though. So I feel like, both these guys, their grappling kind of cancels out each other and just turns into who's the more well-rounded fighter. I believe it's Alves from what I've seen, but, it's hard. It's a tough guy to trust. Like, he's got a lot of losses in his career, especially early in his career. He's turned it up lately. He's on the 5-fight win streak, but a lot of losses, Cole. And quite frankly, minus 190 and a guy that has never even fought in the UFC, this is just a pass for me. I'm going to pick Rafael Alves. I'm going to try looking for more tape on Sabatini. And look, there wasn't, like I said, a ton. I'll look again. I mean, what I saw, it was a good ground game. I'd like to see his striking a little bit more, though. I don't know enough about it to say he can pull off this upset. So my pick's going to be Alves, I guess by decision here, Cole. But, I mean, it's just not a fight I'm interested in betting at all. I'm going to go and look at this one. Art C. Hey, Art, how's it going? He says, Sabati's never shown any cardio issues before. Alves slows down after round 1. Yeah, that's not bad comment either. I think that's definitely something to keep in mind. Again, I just don't have a ton of interest in betting this fight. There just isn't enough information for me, Cole. I don't know. They're both okay prospects, I guess. They do have good jiu-jitsu, but I don't know if they're UFC caliber fighters yet. I'd like to see that after this fight. All right, next up, we have heavyweight bout between Sergey Spivak and Jared Vieira. We did talk about this fight a few months ago, Cole. I'm curious to see if your thoughts have changed, because actually mine have. So right now we have Spivak and Vieira. Spivak is a big favorite, minus 240. Vieira plus 200. What's your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, same as it was before. I like Sergey Spivak here. I'm just not too impressed with Jared Vandeira. I think he gets hit a lot. I think his cardio's a lot to be desired. With Sergey Spivak, like I think he's just one of those grinders where he has the ability to just grind Vandeira up against the cage and on the feet. I don't really know if Vandeira has that knock power to knock him out. Spivak just only been knocked out tied to Ivasa, and that was just UFC debut. Like it was kind of a weird fight. Like I don't really know how prepared he was for that. And then he's fought some hard hitters before, and I think what's really changed is obviously he has struggled against fellow wrestlers like Marcy Tybura, but I just think he's the better wrestler than what Vandeira is. I think he can just kind of clinch him up, similar to what he did against Carlos Felipe. I think this is Sergey Spivak probably by decision. Vandeira's a tough guy to finish. Like he has been submitted before, so I wouldn't be surprised if Spivak can't come down and go and submit him, but I'll pick Spivak by decision.
Yeah, this is a tough fight to call. I mean, honestly, a lot of these, there's 4 heavyweight fights in this card. I think you could definitely bet on the dog in any of these fights, quite frankly. Like you could do a round robin where you just need 2 of them to hit and you're going to make a good profit. So I think that's a possibility to look at for these heavyweight fights. We have 3 more to talk about, but obviously each fight is different. This fight in particular, Cole, the last time we did this podcast, I did pick Vandeira, and I still think the line is too high in Spivak. I can't play him at minus 240. It's a heavyweight fight between 2 guys that are not even top 15. We all know that you take the dog in that situation. Having said that, I spent a lot of time watching tape on this Vandeira guy last night. I'm not impressed at all with this guy, man. I got to be honest. Like, he does have some finishing ability. There's no doubt about it, and he is pretty strong against the cage, but I saw him get taken down a lot. He has no problem playing on the ground. So Spivak is a takedown machine. He's actually very good with his wrestling, underrated with his wrestling. I believe he gets takedowns pretty easily. I think Vandeira lets him get the fight to the ground too. So I think the fight is just going to be Spivak basically laying and praying and probably winning a decision after the 15 minutes. I don't know if I see a finisher. I think if there's a finish, it'll probably be Vandeira actually finishing Spivak, maybe against the fence with elbows or something like that. Because I'm pretty sure Spivak's going to go right across, push against the cage, and try to get this fight to the ground. I watched Vandeira, like he is talented at times, but he just makes so many mistakes. Like I'll give you guys an example. He fought this guy, Richard Odoms, a few years ago. Richard Odoms, he's really old now. I got to double check his age. He's 45, so he's 41 years old when he fought him. He's actually a good heavyweight regional team guy. I was watching that fight. He got taken down in the 5th round, thrown to the mat, and Kimura'd with 2 minutes left in the 5th round. I've never seen it happen before. So that worries me. Again, the fights in EFC were not super impressive. The fights in LFA were not too impressive. Quite frankly, the fight against Harry Hunsucker was not that impressive. He did finish him, Cole. I wasn't impressed. There's not a ton to like about this guy aside from his pure strength and power. The skills, I don't know, Cole. From what I saw, I didn't like it. So I'm going to pick Spivak. But again, minus 240, I'm not interested, guys. If you guys have any thoughts on that fight, I'd love to hear them because, again, Vandeira, I wanted to like him, Cole, but watching the tape, there's just too many holes in this guy's game, man. There really is. Hey, Alex, he says under 1.5 rounds, possibly, but I feel like Spivak can lay and pray, Cole. What are you thinking?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he just wins a decision. I think you look at his fights more often than not, he's going the distance.
Like the Felipe fight, very similar to that. Yeah. Babel fan, Marcel, just came here to say I disagree with Cole. So, yeah, I mean, listen, guys, I wouldn't lay this kind of juice on an unproven guy like Spivak, who's very inconsistent, but, Vandeira, I don't know if there's value as a dog, quite frankly. We'll see. All right, next up, Cole, we got a bantamweight bout between Amin Zahabi and Draco Rodriguez. Right now, Rodriguez minus 170, Zahabi, the Canadian, plus 150. Who's your pick?
I really like Draco Rodriguez here. I think the minus 170 is a really good line. I think he should easily be above 2-1. I'm not just impressed with Amin Zahabi at all. I think he gets a lot of respect for bettors because of the last name. I think he's still in the UFC because of the last name. His last 2 fights, he got knocked out against Ricardo Ramos in 2017, then took 2 years off, comes back against Vince Morales, which I don't think Vince Morales to me is at the bottom of the UFC bantamweight rankings. If they were to rank every single fighter, he'd be right near the bottom. And to lose that fight, I think that's a fight Zahabi should win if he's going to be anything in the UFC. And Draco Rodriguez is a guy that was supposed to be in the UFC a long time ago, but King of the Cage wouldn't let him out of his contract. Only lost to Tony Gravely, a 5th round TKO. He has experience going into the championship rounds because he was he fought for their bantamweight title. I think he didn't. He never won it because he just ended up going on the Contender Series. But I think Draco Rodriguez is better. I think he's better on the feet. I think on the ground he's a lot better. Where maybe he can go out and submit Amin Zahabi. But Zahabi's ground game is pretty good. But I think Draco Rodriguez, this is a fight where he can get the finish probably by ground and pound knockout.
Yeah, I like Draco in this fight too, guys. Tyler also likes him. someone as big as locks. I hate that word, bro. You scare me when you say
Yeah.
that word. Don't say lock, bro. There is no lock of the night. I'll tell you that right now. My boy Lock, he's having some struggles with his own lock of the night lately. I like Rodriguez here, Cole. I wrote down some notes. There's a few reasons I really like him. First off, the age, Cole, 33 to 24. That's a big advantage for Rodriguez. Also, he's been way more active lately. He fought last summer on Contender Series, looked great, finished the guy in the first round. Zahabi hasn't fought in 2 years, Cole. Not only that, Cole, I'm looking at Zahabi's record, and I'm like, okay, like he lost this fight. I'm like, who's Reginaldo Vieira? Like, I don't even remember that guy. The one guy he beat in the UFC, Cole, I don't even know who that guy is. I can't remember who he is. So it's like, that's his only win. The other two fights, he struggled a little bit. The Ramos fight, he looked okay, then got KO'd brutally. That was on the GSP card. And then the other fight, he lost to Morales, I believe. You know, the guy is going to have good coaching. I think he's going to come in with a good game plan. He's probably going to try for like a point fighting game plan. That's what a lot of the fighters that try to start to do. I don't think it's going to work with this guy. Draco, not only does he have a lot of fights already as a pro, Cole, he had a lot of amateur fights too. He's ready to go. He had so many fights as an amateur, 13-0 as an amateur with 10 wins by stoppage. And now he's got, I think, 8 fights as a pro. The one loss he's had in his career is Tony Gravely in the 5th round. That's it. Other than that, Cole, he finishes almost everyone. Zahabi is pretty durable. I don't know if Draco finishes necessarily, Cole. I really like him here. I mean, just every advantage for this guy in this fight. I don't know how Zahabi beats him. You know, I was on another podcast yesterday, and the guy likes Zahabi a little bit. I really like that guy, and I think his takes are good. So I was kind of like thinking, like, what does he like about him here? And I looked into it. Just to me, there's not much to like, you know. But we'll see. I like Draco though, Cole, and I'm with Tyler. I think he's definitely a guy on the short list for a bet. I think at minus 170, that's good odds. Cole, I think he should be minus 250. Like, quite
That's what I said. I think he should be well above 200.
Yeah, I'm with Cole on that one too. Here's Ard in the last fight. He says Vieira used the Homer Simpson defense, hits hard, nothing good about him. I mean, the guy's got some okay grappling chops, but in general, man, like he's not that well-rounded, bro, honestly, from what I saw. But I could be completely wrong too. I mean, and we know that tape changes. Guys get better in the gym. We know that. All right, so next up, Cole, we got featherweights, Chas Skelly, Jamal Emmers. Right now we have Emmers minus 240, Skelly plus 200. Give me your thoughts.
Yeah, this is an interesting fight. I'm glad to see Chas Skelly get back in there. I have to go with Jamal Emmers, though. I'm just a bit more impressed with him. Chas Skelly, he's been kind of hit and miss in the UFC. Like, I think the Jason Knight fight, that's a fight he probably should win. The Bobby Moffett, that whole controversy, I don't really put much stock into that. And then the win over Jordan Griffin, I'm not too high with Jordan Griffin, but like he does have a submission win over Chris Gertzmacher, which is okay. Like I think when he really gets those steps up in competition, he kind of loses like Darren Elkins and Mirsad Bektik. Even I guess Jason Knight's probably a step up to some of the guys he's been fighting. Jamal Emmers, I've been really impressed with this guy. Like the split decision against Giga Chikadze, that was a fight I think he took on short notice or Giga took on short notice, but totally different style from what he's supposed to fight. And he did pretty good in that fight. Some people thought he even won that fight. And then he really showed off his striking and wrestling against Cachoeira. I think he has the capability to maybe go out there and submit or ground pound Chas Skelly. We've seen him be finished before, but I really like Jamal Emmers in this fight.
I like Emmers too, man. He's a guy that I think you could play as chalk. I'm way more confident in him than I am in Vieira or Spivak, who's the same price against Vieira. I would much rather lay minus 240 on Emmers. You guys know I'm trying to stay away from these guys in the minus 200 range. I feel like they're losing a lot this year. So, it's a little scary because of that, what's been going on. But I really like him in this matchup. I just feel like Emmers, first off, he's got 100% takedown defense. So he's never been taken down in the UFC or Contender Series, which I love. So the fight's going to take place on the feet. Chas Skelly is so sloppy on the feet. He's like, he keeps his chin in the air. He's got his hands down. He's got that awkward style. Like, he can hit you at times, but he's a guy that wants to take you to the ground, Cole. He wants to go to the ground. His submissions are amazing. He's averaging over 4 submission attempts per 15. So, like, he's one of the higher, like, submission guys in this division. But having said that, Cole, I mean, he's been finished before. We've seen him get finished. He's also the older guy. He went 4 years, 35 to 31. 2-inch reach disadvantage. I don't like that either. And quite frankly, I don't think his takedowns are good enough to get Emmers to the ground. Emmers has not been taken down. I don't see it happening here. And I don't think he's going to choose to go to the ground. We saw that fight, the last one, Cole, Emmers had, looked amazing. And quite frankly, I thought he beat Giga too. I think a lot of us thought he beat Giga. It's funny because people thought Giga sucked then. They thought he sucked. And they were like, Giga sucks, Emmers is going to win. Now everyone's like, oh, Emmers sucks, Giga's amazing. Emmers is good. He should have won that fight. I think he'll win this fight. Give me Emmers. decision or knockout, Cole? I think he can knock Chas Skelly out quite.
I think you can too.
Yeah, I like Chas. When was the last time he fought? It's been a while, right? Like he doesn't fight that often. Once a year maybe? Like
what was it? The Milwaukee card the Vancouver card in 2019.
It's been a while. I like the guy. He seems like a cool dude, but I just don't like the matchup for him. Daniel says Skelly won't trouble him the same way Chikati and Rosa did. Rosa did knock him out with a head kick. That freaking concerns me because we'll talk about Rosa in a few minutes, but that does concern me a little bit. But still, I like Embers. I don't think Skelly has the power to hurt him. Battle fan, leave Cole alone. If you want to experiment with EPO, it's his business. Cole's taking some drugs. Get through the podcast. All right, Cole, next up, Shayna Dobson versus Casey O'Neill, women's flyweight bout. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this one. Casey O'Neill minus 145, Dobson plus 125. Who's your pick?
I like Casey O'Neill in this fight. I know Shayna Dobson just coming off that massive upset win, but I'm really high on Casey O'Neill. Like, you don't really see many 5-0 fighters get to the UFC, but this is someone I think the UFC has a lot of hope for. She has looked very impressive. Works in Tiger Muay Thai. Like, her striking is really good. And just Shayna Dobson, her last fight, although she did beat Agapova, like that was more to be just Agapova gassing out. Like, Agapova dominated that first round. She just gassed herself out. This is someone that got knocked out by Priscilla Cachoeira in 40 seconds. Spina Mazo, Lauren Mueller, like, dominated her. I'm not really too high on Lauren Mueller. I think this line would have been a lot higher had Agapova not gassed herself out. Like, I think Casey O'Neill should easily be minus 200 favorite here against Shayna Dobson. I think her striking is a lot better. I think this fight is going to stay standing. I think O'Neill might actually be able to knock out Shayna Dobson in this fight.
Wow. Man, I got to be honest. I watched Casey O'Neill. I spent way too much time watching her tape last night. I'm not that impressed, man. I got to be honest. She does have an unbeaten record, but you got to see the girls she's fighting. They're terrible, dude. They're really bad. Like this Christina Stelio girl, and she's Greek, and I'm Greek, so I should like her, but man, she was so bad in that fight. I don't know, Cole. I got to be honest. I wasn't impressed. Like, I wanted to be impressed because going into this, I'm like, okay, she should smoke Shayna Dobson. Undefeated prospect, way younger. But I just didn't like what I saw, man. Like, even the last fight, it was only a few months ago. To me, it wasn't impressive. She is able to get takedowns, but I'm telling you, like, the girls she's taking down are not good fighters, man. So this is a tough one for me because I was definitely thinking about O'Neill until I actually watched more of her fights, and I just wasn't impressed. Having said that, I mean, it's not like Dobson's super impressive either. Her record stinks, 4-4, and the fight she won, Agapova. Listen, I got to give her all the credit in the world coming back and winning. She was losing that fight. Her opponent gassed out. But if you look closer at some of the losses, I mean, they were a little bit more possibly competitive than we think. The problem is the takedown defense is really bad too. So, I think O'Neill probably could get a takedown. But, if she doesn't finish early, I think she can have an adrenaline dump and get finished herself just like Agapova did. This is a tough one to call. I got to be honest with you. We've picked only chalk so far. I do think there's going to be some upsets on this card. All right, let's do it. Shayna Dobson, pick her. Let's do it. This is a fade on what I saw from O'Neill. And I could be wrong because, again, a young fighter can get so much better in the gym in just a few months. I know that. And she could easily go in there and just pull Dobson down and finish her. But I like the camp Dobson's at. I like the training call. I like the coaches. I think they can come in with a good game plan here. So that's my thoughts. But I'm going to watch more tape on Dobson during this week, and I'm going to watch more O'Neill and see if I could pick up anything more. Right now, I'm going to go slightly towards Dobson, Cole. And I say that even though I did a podcast yesterday where I took O'Neill, and then I changed my mind because after watching more of her, I wasn't too impressed. And the guys doing the podcast with kind of tipped me off on that. All right, next up, we got Julian Erosa against Nate Landwehr. I like this fight too, Cole. Right now, we have essentially a pick'em fight, minus 115 for Erosa, minus 105 for Landwehr. What's your thoughts on this one?
I actually like Nate Landwehr here. I'm surprised he's like that. It is a kind of pick 'em, but a slight lean towards Erosa. But I like Landwehr here. Like, I think Julian Erosa, similar to what Shane Dobson, is getting a lot of hype because of his win over Sean Woodson. That win was obviously very impressive. Like, that was a setup fight for kind of Woodson to look good. But this is Erosa's third stint in the UFC. Like, this is third stint for a reason. He struggled to win fights in the UFC. He's been cut twice. Like, his first stint, he was on the Ultimate Fighter, got knocked out. This guy got knocked out to Artem Lobov in a minute. Like, and Artem Lobov doesn't have a whole lot of knockout power. He went over overseas, and the problem is he gets knocked out a lot. And Nate Landwehr, I think, has a lot of knockout power where he can knock him out. Like, Julian Erosa knocked him out. Devontae Smith knocked him out. Bobby McIntyre, the regional scene, knocked him out. Teruto Ishihara, I'm not that high on, knocked him out. Artem Lobov, like I mentioned, knocked him out in a minute. Like, I question his chin. I think Nate Landwehr has the power where he's going to eventually connect and knock Rose out.
Yeah, I'm with you. I actually like Landwehr a lot in this fight. I think he knocks him out too. Again, watched a lot of fights on a roast. I've already seen him fight a lot. I just wanted to kind of refresh my memory on him. And it's like keeps his hands in his waist, keeps his chin in the air, every fight. And he did win his last fight, and we'll give him credit for that. He was a big underdog, Cole. It's a great performance.
Mm-hmm.
Came back and won. That was his second win in the UFC. Overall, 2-4 in the UFC, Cole. To me, it doesn't seem like he's a guy that can win at this level of the sport. And I guess he did beat Woodson. He beat Emery. He's got some decent wins. Don't get me wrong, he does. But I'm telling you, man, like it's there's a lot of holes in this guy's game. And the biggest problem for me, again, is the chin. Because you look at his record, a lot of knockout losses, Cole. I think he's been knocked out 5 or 6 times. Nate Landwehr, this guy is a aggressive dude, walks forward, throwing bombs, good chin as well. He has been dropped a few times. I watched a lot of him. A lot of his M1 fights, man. He was fighting killers in Russia and beating them, dude, like in their own home country. This dude is not scared, and it cost him. It cost him against Herbert Burns. He was stupid in that fight. He basically was like, Herbert can't knock me out, and he knocked him with a brutal knee in the clinch. It was brutal. But he looked, I thought, pretty good against Darren Elkins in a close fight. Marcel says he thought Elkins beat Landwehr. Very close, Marcel. The problem with Elkins is he gets cut open so easily. The judges look at his face. They're like, there's no way he won the round. Like that, it's a lazy way to judge, but I think that's what they're doing. The stats were close in that fight. Anyways, I like Landwehr here, Cole. And to be quite frankly, Cole, I think he can finish this fight. I think he can actually knock out Julian Erosa. So I like Landwehr. He's a small dog here, basically a pick 'em. I also like the fight not going in the distance, Cole. That's essentially a pick 'em too, and I like that as well. I think the fight ends inside the distance. So my pick, Nate Landwehr by knockout. We got Khabib in the chat. What's up, Khabib? And I want to get Art's comments. Art says O'Neal's been fighting for less than 2 years, moving around weight classes to fight fights. You're right. Having said that, she has been fighting as an amateur for 7 years. So and I watched her amateur fights. To me, it wasn't that impressive. But again, she's a young fighter, can improve. But there will be some upsets in the card. There's no way 15 favorites win in this card. There's just no chance. And Daniel wasn't too impressed either. Okay, next up, Cole. Eddie Wineland and John Castaneda. Sorry, Cole. By the way, the last fight, Landwehr, you took knockout or decision?
Yeah, knockout.
Knockout, okay. Wineland and John Castaneda here. Right now, close odds, Cole. John Castaneda minus 130, Wineland plus 110. Your pick.
Call me crazy. I think the old man gets it done. I like Eddie Wineland in this fight. I'm not too impressed with John Castaneda. I don't really understand how he got into the UFC. This guy got into the UFC being 1-2 in his last 3, and then Nathaniel Wood just kind of outclassed him. But whatever, that isn't Nathaniel Wood. But even in Kabate, like, he wasn't fighting that best competition and was losing. If Eddie Wineland, like, I know he got knocked out to Sean O'Malley, but that was a setup fight for O'Malley to look good in. Before that, like, knocked out Grigory Popov, and the guy doesn't get, he's hard to finish. And I don't think Castaneda has the power to knock him out. And then on the ground, like, I think they're probably pretty similar, but I think Eddie Wineland's a bit better of a striker where if he keeps it standing, I think he can just kind of outpoint John Castaneda to win a decision. I think this is a close fight for a reason, but I got to take a shot on the dog, and I think Eddie Wineland can get it done.
Yeah, all respect in the world to you, Cole, on this one. I think you have an uphill climb, personally. I think Eddie Wineland's in for a tough night here, personally. Let's talk about John Castaneda, because I have the same question about you with his fights, with the fights getting in the UFC. So I watched the fights last night because I wanted to know, I'm like, how did this guy get in the UFC with a 1-2 record his last 3? So the first fight they lost, Levi Sal Marukin, was the 3rd fight in the same night. He fought 3 times in one night, lost a close decision. So really, how can you say that's a bad loss? The second loss against Jose Alde, go watch that fight. Go look at the comments on YouTube. It was a horrible, disgusting robbery. It was a horrible robbery. So to me, yeah, he probably lost that Moroccan fight, but again, 3rd fight in the same night. That's who does that these days. And the other fight was a bad robbery. So to me, like, they aren't as bad as they look, Cole. And then Nathaniel Wood fight, he's fighting, to me, a really good fighter in Nathaniel Wood. I think Nathaniel Wood's great, and he was pretty competitive in that fight. The problem with Eddie Wineland is he's 36, Cole. He barely fights anymore. He's getting chinny a little bit too. I do agree he probably does have the overall better boxing, better striking. I do agree with that. But the chin, I think, is a lot worse. Not only that, Castaneda's got good wrestling too, man. I watched a lot of tape on this guy. He has good wrestling. I was happy about that, Cole, to see he mixes it in really well. Now, this is kind of a step up compared to a lot of the guys he fought in the regional scene, but it's a step down from Nathaniel Wood. I think he's going to be ready to go in this fight, Cole. I liked what I saw from Castaneda on the tape. I did. So my pick is going to be Castaneda in this fight, guys. I think he gets it done by decision. just outworks Wineland, kind of like Perez did a few years ago, kind of same fight as that. And we'll take comments from Babel fan. Levy, Moroccan's a legit fighter. Yeah, and that was a close fight. He said Wineland can win this. So, and they need an opponent for winning short notice. That's how Costa came to UFC. All your points are right, but again, I was glad I actually watched those fights because I thought he sucked. I'll be honest. But this is why you have to watch the fights, Cole. You can't just look at a guy's tapology. You have to actually look at what happened in the fight. And in this fight, in those fights, I think Castaneda is being a little bit overlooked. So he is a favorite here, Cole, but it's a good price. So I kind of like him here. All right, next up, we got Drakkar Klose against Luis Pena. I know Cole really likes this fight. Right now, Cole, Klose minus 190, Pena plus 165. You think it's a close fight, or do you think Klose gets a unanimous decision here?
I like Drakkar Klose here. I think Luis Pena is overhyped a lot. Like, you look at his run in the UFC, like, he gets those down in the competition. Mike Trizano loses to Matt Frevola. I don't really understand how that Matt Frevola fight was a split. I thought Frevola won pretty clearly. Same with the Mike Trizano fight. Then he gets submitted to Kamaworthy. Kamaworthy is not a jiu-jitsu guy, and Luis Pena is supposed to be this grappler, and Kamaworthy tapped him out. And then look at his win. Steve Garcia decision. Third round ground and pound of Matt Wyman, like the shell of Matt Wyman, and he had to go 3 rounds with him. And then he beat Steven Peterson, which is an okay win, but that was also a featherweight when Pena weighed like 149, 150 pounds. It wasn't even close to making featherweight. I don't know why he ever thought he could go featherweight. I like Drakkar Klose. I think he's a lot better striker. I think he can just pick apart Luis Pena. Luis Pena is a long range fight, like 6'3". Like he has a 5-inch reach advantage in this fight, but he doesn't use it very good. Like that's the thing. Like he doesn't use his reach. Like I think Klose can just kind of close the distance and just kind of pick apart Luis Pena. Drakkar Klose doesn't have much finishing power. Like he did rock Beneil Dariush, but I'll probably just pick Drakkar Klose by decision.
Yep, and Battle fan likes Klose too. Yeah, I gotta go with Klose here too. I don't know if I could bet on him honestly because to me I know he's got a good record 5-2, but he hasn't been that impressive. Cole, he's never got a finish in the UFC. All his fights go the distance. The one fight he didn't, he got finished. Just coming off a bad loss by knockout a year ago to a good fighter. The thing is, Pena doesn't really present that knockout power, Cole. That's why I'm not too worried if the fight stays standing. I think Pena, if anything, will be looking for takedowns. And Klose's takedown defense is terrible. For a guy who's a wrestler, Cole, it's only 33%. So it's not good. It's just not that great. The guy is on paper the better wrestler, and a better striker. I don't know. He should win a decision. I don't know if I want to bet him or anything, but Dorrington, he says, Klose will be 50% draft in DraftKings. Probably, yeah. I just don't think he's going to get a finish, though, so I don't think he's a good guy for DraftKings. He also doesn't really hold you on the ground. He's kind of like those guys that outpoint you on the feet. Those are not really good DraftKings fighters, in my opinion. Although I agree he will be probably highly owned. Klose Pena feels like a trap. It could be, Cole. It could be. And there's going to be some upsets on this card, Cole. Like, there's no doubt about it. You think, is there any way Pena could, like, take his back or something? Is it possible?
I don't know. I think Klose has pretty good grappling. Like this guy is hard to finish, but I'm just not too high on Luis Pena. Like I wouldn't be surprised. And Pena taking on short notice too is another concern for me of why I wouldn't pick him. But yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if he won.
And my apologies earlier. I said his takedown defense was 30. It's actually the other way around. His accuracy is 30%. His takedown defense is 70. So it's not bad. But he doesn't really go for takedowns, Cole. He's even though he has the wrestling advantage, he likes to stay and trade. Mm-hmm. Probably a good matchup for him though. So I'm going to go with Klose. I don't know. Kind of a weird fight. You can't hope a guy with the nickname Violent Bob Ross the hype peaks for herself. That being said, I got closer for sure. I like Pena, man. He's got a great nickname too. And my boy Hunter Homestead gave him that nickname over at Flow Combat years ago. Battle fan, if your name is Nathaniel Wood, you don't go ahead and nickname the prospect. You go with Morning Wood. Love it. Love it. Daniel says Pena by sub with the stat. It's possible. Like here's the thing. He was a huge favorite the last fight, Cole. Loses. Now he's a huge dog. Doesn't that always kind of throw you off a little bit, Cole? Mm-hmm. When like people are like, I'll give you Munar Lazez, great example, right? Huge dog, beats Alisson, huge favorite, gets knocked out. What's he going to be his next fight? I have no freaking clue, man. I'll be honest. Anyways, next fight, Cole, Jared Gordon versus Danny Chavez. We're almost on the prelims here, guys. And this fight right now, Chavez minus 140, Gordon plus 120. Who's your pick?
I like Jared Gordon in this fight. I know he's kind of had those struggles, but looking at his losses, like Diego Ferreira, not a bad loss. That Joaquim Silva fight, he was winning every single minute of that fight until I think he tore his quad or hamstring or something in the fight. And he like couldn't even move. So that's kind of why he got knocked out, like because he just couldn't get out of the way. But then losing to Charles Oliveira, like I don't even know why that fight was ever made. Like I don't know how that fight even got sanctioned. That fight should never have happened ever. But then he came back and looked good against Chris Fishgold. Like, I do think featherweight is where he should be. I did have question marks about his chin at featherweight, but he did take some good shots against Fishgold and kind of went through it. Chavez does have a lot more power. I wouldn't be surprised if Chavez knocks out Jared Gordon, but I think Gordon's wrestling is going to be the difference. Like, this guy doesn't get tired. Jared Gordon just kind of goes forward the entire time, uses wrestling. He doesn't have the most knock power. Like, I don't think he'll be able to like ground pound Chavez out, but I just think his wrestling, his cardio, his pace is eventually going to wear on Danny Chavez, and Gordon's going to edge out a decision.
Yeah, I got to be honest with Cole. I'm on the other side on this one. I really like Danny Chavez in this fight, guys. I was so impressed by his debut. He looked great in that fight against TJ Brown. I know TJ Brown's not a great fighter by any means, but we saw his number one weapon, which is the kicks. His kicks are nasty. He's got some really nasty low kicks, calf kicks. We know how like important those are right now in the sport. Everyone's using them. This guy uses them really well, and he's been using them for years. Again, I watched a lot of fights. Not only that, but like, you know, you look at some of his losses, like Jordan Parsons, the first guy I lost to. That guy was a really good prospect who I believe died in a car accident, if I'm not mistaken. He used to fight for Bellator. It's not a bad loss. Jason Soares got tapped out with 2 minutes left in the fifth. Not really bad loss. The Adi Alic fight worries me because I think he got kind of grinded in that fight. So Gordon would probably be looking to do that. But I think his takedowns and his grappling has improved from what I've seen. He also landed 4 takedowns in the last fight. I think from what I've seen, he does go to his wrestling if he has to mix it up. And he has knockout power. You know, Cole, all respect to Jared Gordon. What this guy's done in his life is pretty amazing. To go from being, quite frankly, a drug addict to fighting in the UFC and winning fights at this level of the sport is absolutely phenomenal. So all the credit in the world to this guy, Cole. I cannot trust a guy who's lost 3 of his last 5 fights by knockout. I can't do it against a guy who hits hard like Chavez. I actually like Chavez here, guys, by knockout. That's going to be my pick. He's a guy I would be targeting for DraftKings for sure because I think he's going to get his finish here. And if he doesn't, I think he can put a high output pace for 3 rounds. But we'll see. Gordon has more experience. He has the grappling edge on paper, so it'd be interesting to see. All right, Cole. Last prelim here, Tom Aspinall against Andrei Arlovski. Aspinall minus 245, Arlovski plus 205. You think the dog can come through here?
I am so tempted to take a shot on Andrei Arlovski. Like, Tom Aspinall should not be this big of a favorite over Andrei Arlovski. Like, look at who he beat. Jake Collier, when Collier looked like that was the peak heavyweight Collier where he didn't take his shirt off for weigh-ins. Like, that's how you know, like, that was his first fight in forever. And then Alan Bodott, who should have never been in the UFC. I don't even know how he got it. The guy got into the UFC after winning him, I think, by DQ. Like, I think Aspinall is overrated. Like, because then look at his record, like 2-0, 6-2, 3-7. Got DQ'd, and then beat a guy 0-0, lost to a guy 8-2, beat a guy 3-3, 2-0, 1-1. Like, he hasn't fought anyone good. Andrei Arlovski, like, his chin for I don't know how has gotten better over the years. Like, this is a guy after that Stipe fight was basically you just had to tap his chin and he'd get put out. Like, he lost 5 straight fights in a row and 4 by knockout or 3 by knockout. And then he beats beat 7 Struve. And then he goes on that losing streak where he is in these close fights. Like, he took a split decision, or he lost a split decision against Sakai. That's a fight a lot of people thought he won. Walt Harris fight was really close. He did get knocked out of Rosenstruck. Then he goes out there and beats Philippe Lins, Tanner Boser. That Boser fight was close. I thought Boser won, but Arlovski is capable to slow this fight down and really make it close. I think if Aspinall can't knock him out, I wouldn't be surprised if Arlovski takes a decision, but I just have a hard time picking Andrei Arlovski at this stage of his career, so I will go Tom Aspinall, but I am staying away from this. Like, I think it's really dog or pass here, but I'm going to bet this fight.
I got to show you this quickly. This is too funny. As I remember betting on this fight, it was almost 10 years ago, and I can't believe that. I had so much money in this fight, guys. Look at this. Look at this odds, Cole. Plus money. Got Rumble plus money against Arlovski, and I had Gaethje. I think he opened up plus money too against JC Cavalcante. It's crazy what could happen. I remember that fight so well. I listen. I respect Arlovski, man. The guy has been winning fights that he hasn't really had any business winning, quite frankly. But I really think it's more of those guys he's beating. It says more about them than what it says about Andre. Tanner Boser, first off, I thought he won that fight. Second off, it's his fault he lost. He just didn't do enough. Andre did nothing in that fight. How could you say that was a good performance by him? You know what I mean? Like, he did nothing, Cole. In the fight before that against Philippe Lins, again, Philippe Lins did really nothing for 3 rounds, and Arlovski won a point fight. The fight before that, he got brutally KO'd in 20 seconds by Rosenstruck. That's what I think happens here. I think Aspinall, from what I've seen, Aspinall super aggressive, huge hands, walks forward, throws bombs, very accurate with the strikes. I like what I see from Tom Aspinall. Having said that, as much as I want to bet it, I'm scared too, because Arlovski pulls off these ugly, shitty decisions, Cole. And you're like, how did he win this fight? The Ben Rothwell fight too, another fight, Cole. I thought for sure he's going to get his head knocked off by Rothwell. And he goes in there and has an amazing performance. So the guy has these great performances once in a while. I don't think this is going to be it. I think Aspinall knocks his block off, but you are risking a little bit by betting on Tom Aspinall in this fight and betting against Andrei Arlovski. I would rather probably take Aspinall inside the distance at a pick a price minus 125. I'd rather have that, Cole, because I don't think he wins a decision this fight. I don't think this fight goes past the first round. If it does, it's going to be Arlovski winning a decision. Khabib says he likes Arlovski. Daniel Evers, don't worry about the odds. Aspinall knockout, feints and leg kicks won't get Arlovski through this one. Aspinall untested, but seems to have size and power at 12 with Arlovski. Yeah, sorry, I should have mentioned that. I had some more notes here. Aspinall he's 6'5", and he has a huge reach too. All his wins are by first round knockout. That's the problem though, Cole. What happens if he gets out of the first round? You know, we saw with Vieira last week, Rodolfo Vieira, Cole, one trick pony that got out of the first round. Does Aspinall even have a ground game? He has been finished on the ground before. Arlovski actually does have some submissions. Like, who knows? I gotta stick to my gut though. My gut's saying Aspinall would knockout, but my gut's been wrong with Arlovski many times. Guy knows how to win these ugly decisions. Cole. Art says lay the juice. Aspinall's better everywhere. Haven't seen how good his cardio is, but he's got a black belt. Arlovski has to hold Aspinall against the cage 3 rounds. And I don't think he does that. Aspinall's a beast. Also, he had that interview call with like the Bash the other day. Super confident. Like he's ready to go. I think he gets the job done here. All right, next up, we got the main card, Cole. That's the prelims. I don't know, Cole, why is that on the main card? How is that on the main card?
I think it is a main card fight. I think it's my main card.
Okay, I'm just looking at Topology. I hope it's on the main card. All right, Nasruddin Imavov against Phil Hawes, Cole. Right now, very, very close odds, Cole. Imavov, plus 105. Phil Hawes, small favorite, minus 125. Your pick.
Yeah, my pick doesn't change from what we broke down a couple weeks ago. I still like Phil Hawes. I think his wrestling's going to be the difference, where I think I'm not too sure if Phil Hawes will be able to knock at Imavov. I don't even pay any attention to Imavov's UFC debut. Like, that Jacob Malkoun guy should not have been in the UFC, but Imavov definitely has the capabilities just to grind Phil Hawes out and kind of just win an ugly decision. But I think Phil Hawes' wrestling will be able to keep it standing. I think Hawes is the much better striker, where even if he can't get the knockout, he'll just kind of outstrike Imavov. I do worry about Phil Hawes' gas tank, though. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he wins the first 2 rounds, and the third round, like, Imavov's on the could 10-8 him or finish him, but I'll take Phil Hawes here. I think my pick doesn't really change, but it's definitely a fight where I wouldn't be surprised if Imavov won.
I can't remember what I picked last time. I might have picked Hawes. I actually can't remember. It's been, what, a month or something? Yeah. You know, I got to be honest. If I did, my pick's probably switched now. It's a close fight. I mean, the odds are obviously pick them for essentially a reason. But I'm going to go with Imavov a little bit, Cole. And here's the reason why. Hawes is impressive. Physically, he's impressive. Don't doubt about it. And I sent Cole this video last night of this one fight he had. That takedown he landed. Like, have you ever seen a faster takedown? Like, the guy is a beast. Like, we know that. He's got 1 round of cardio, though. That's the biggest problem, Cole. Like, look at his resume. All his wins are in the first round. I don't think he's won a fight. Okay, his first debut fight in 2014, he won in the second round. All his other wins are in the first round. And if he gets out of the first round, he loses. The Julian Marquez fight's a great example of that, Cole. Winning that fight, dominating Julian Marquez in the first round, huge adrenaline dump, huge gas dump, brutally knocked out with a head kick. One of the worst I've ever seen. Horrible knockout, like brutal. He has looked amazing since then, 5 straight wins, and against okay competition, not great, decent. It's just that, like, Jacob Malkoun, I feel like that was the worst thing that could have happened to him, Cole. I gotta be honest. Fighting a guy for 18 seconds he was supposed to win, I don't think that's a good thing. It wasn't a benefit. It would have been more beneficial if he fought someone for 15 minutes or something, in my opinion. That fight was a joke. I have a lot of questions about Phil Hawes. I got to be honest with you. I have less about Imavov, surprisingly. I like what I see from this guy, man. He's a beast. He's huge, 6'3". He's a big dude for this weight. He's a little bit shorter with the reach than Hawes, but overall, he's younger. He's 8 years younger as well. The guy's on a nice win streak, 6-5 win streak. He's looked good, well-rounded everywhere, in my opinion. Decent striking, not great. Hawes has the striking advantage. I would definitely agree with that. But overall, I think Imavov is just a little bit more well-rounded, and I think he has better defense too. So, yes, Hawes can get him out there in the first round, but I think Imavov is a little bit more solid, and I think he wins this fight by decision. Daniel Evers, Imavov is wide open for the overhand right. It gets backed up easy enough for a guy like Hawes. Yeah, we'll see what happens, and he likes Hawes in the second round. Battle fan, Imavov versus Hawes, second fight main card. Daniel versus Alves, main card originally. Yeah, and then Daniel says about Vieira. Wanted some sort out of Vegas for the poor guy. Cramped up out there. That was hard to watch, man. I've never seen a guy's body get like frozen like that, Cole. And he was talking about it. He's like, I have no idea what happened. It was a good weight cut. Just huge adrenaline dump, Cole. Cole, we got, like 50 minutes to break down these last 4 fights. Aleksei Oleinik, one of Cole's absolute favorites against Chris Daukaus. Daukaus right now, minus 170. Oleinik plus 150. You taking the old man, Cole?
I have to go with Chris Daukaus. I just don't trust Oleinik's chin, but there's basically 2 ways this fight goes. Oleinik submits to Chris Daukaus, or Chris Daukaus knocks out Aleksei Oleinik. I think this fight ends probably pretty quickly. Oleinik has terrible cardio, but I mean, you can't really blame him. The guy's 43? Yeah. And this is his 75th professional MMA fight. That is absolutely crazy. Like, you have to respect the guy. And the guy has pulled off wins recently. Like, although he got knocked out of Derrick Lewis last time out, that first round, he could like just held Lewis down with threatening submissions, and Lewis was just so much stronger. He just kind of got up somehow. But it's definitely an interesting fight. Like we saw with Maurice Green, like he has the capability to submit guys. Fabricio Verdum, like he can do enough. But then that Walt Harris fight, like Alistair Overeem, like it's either he gets knocked out or he submits someone. I think maybe you just play both props against Aleksei Oleinik by submission, Chris Daukaus by Naga. Just gotta protect yourself. But I'll pick Daukaus. I think he's like physically stronger where he can stuff the takedowns, and I think Oleinik, it only takes about 1 or 2 punches and he kind of goes out at this stage of his career. Yeah,
I mean, Oleinik, listen, he is the more experienced guy. He actually has a longer reach too in this fight. The problem is he doesn't use his reach. We know that. He likes to stand on the feet just to confuse you to get a takedown, basically. That's all he's trying to do in his fights. There's no way. I mean, he has stood and traded in a few fights, like the fight with Verdum. He kind of outstruck him in that fight, I guess. But in general, we know what he's trying to do. He's trying to get you to the ground. I don't think that's going to happen here. Chris Daukaus, again, I kind of wanted to pick Oleinik, Cole, based on the odds, because I think, Oleinik's a guy you got to respect a little bit more than what the odds say, generally. There's nothing to like about him in this fight, Cole. This is Daukaus' fight. I think Chris Daukaus knocks Oleinik in the first round, Cole. I got to be honest. This guy has great boxing, and huge power. But he really is a great boxer. Like, the wins he's had in the UFC were impressive. Even the ones in the regional scene, the guy is very, very good with his hands. He has been finished before on the ground and on the feet, so it's obviously a worry. It's heavyweight, but for what I've seen, the guy's a good prospect, man. Him and his brother, I like them both. This guy's also like a freaking cop in Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. Like, that's as tough as it gets, Cole. I think he's a black belt on the ground too, so I think he'll be able to match Oleinik a little bit. Might get tapped, but listen, Cole, if Oleinik couldn't tap out Lewis, that really does kind of hurt me a little bit. And I had Oleinik in that fight. I know Lewis doesn't have much of a neck, though, so could be a different matchup. But yeah, Chris Daukaus by knockout. At first, I wasn't going to play him, but the more I think about this one, I think I might have to end up playing him by knockout at least. Because, Cole, I don't think this fight gets out in the first round. What's Daukaus in the first round? Daukaus round 1 plus 150. Yeah, I think that's how it ends. Don't like the odds, though. Wish they were a little bit better. All right, Cole, 3 fights left. Derrick Minner against Charles Rosa. Right now, Rosa minus 190, Minner plus 165. Give your pick.
Yeah, interesting fight. I think this basically, I like Charles Rosa here. I don't really see a path to victory for Derrick Minner. Like, you look at Minner's fights, he submits guys in the first round. I don't think you can really submit Charles Rosa. Bryce Mitchell couldn't submit Charles Rosa over 3 rounds. I don't really think Derrick Minner can. Derrick Minner kind of is that guillotine guy. Like, he just goes on bad wrestlers leaving their neck out and he hops on it. Well, what's kind of interesting in this fight is I was looking at it. So fight doesn't go the distance is minus 215. But then Minner inside the distance is plus 325, and Rosa inside the distance is plus 105. Yep. I think you just play them both. I don't see the fight hitting the scorecards, and then it's still plus money. So even if Rosa wins, you make a small profit. Obviously, if Minner wins, it's going to be in that first round. I think Minner gassed himself out in the first round, can't get the finish, and Charles Rosa either submits him or ground pound TKOs him out. But I don't see how this fight hits the scorecards, but I like Charles Rosa here.
I wish this guy spelled his name properly. Derrick with a D-A. It's so weird. Like, I'm doing the article yesterday. I'm like, Derrick? Like, it's such a weird spelling. Anyways, this is an interesting fight. I actually like this fight a lot. I'm glad it's on the main card because I think it's going to be really exciting. My initial thoughts was Rosa should win this fight because he does have pretty solid submission defense. Never been tapped out as a pro. He has been tapped out as an amateur, but never as a pro. The guy looked good in his last fight against Aguilar, where he kind of sprawled and brawled his way to win in that fight. He looked decent. At lightweight, to be fair. But, and I know he was able to go the 50 minutes with Bryce Mitchell, Cole, but the fact he was on the ground for, basically the whole 50 minutes in a bad position the whole time, Bryce Mitchell won that fight 30-24. That scares me, Cole. Because if Derrick Minner gets a takedown early in this fight, which I think he can, quite frankly, I think he gets them out of there by submission in the first round. Again, there's going to be some dogs that win in this card. Rosa, if he gets out of the first round, wins this fight probably by decision or maybe a stoppage even on Minner. Probably a stoppage, actually, Cole. I don't think the fight goes distance. But Minner is so underrated, in my opinion. I got to be honest, Cole. I think people really overlook this guy because his record's not that great, 25-11. But basically, all the 25 wins are first-round submissions. This guy is really nasty in the first round. And if you look closer at his record, almost all of his losses are to guys currently in the UFC. He is pretty underrated, in my opinion. I actually think he could finish Rosa. And I know it's surprising because Rosa went 15 minutes and my head saying he can evade the submissions. I feel like there's a reason the UFC put this fight together. I think Darrick Minner gets overlooked. He just beat TJ Laramie in an amazing upset. The guy is amazing on the ground, Cole. There's going to be a few upsets. I'll take a shot on Minner, plus 165 by first round sub. And I like it, Cole. Plus 325 for a finish. Even if you think Rosa will win, that's a great hedge. That is a great hedge. Daniel says Rosa might win decision. Minner's been training to go longer in fights. He's training with James Carson, guys.
Yeah. Allegedly to go longer in fights. This guy
I think so, Cole. I think it ends early.
This guy is over 30 fights, and he's proven he has 5 minutes of cardio. I don't really know what a 3-month training camp with James Crows, how much you can really change.
Listen, guys, we all said the same thing about the fight with TJ Laramie. We all said that's how it was going to go, and we saw what happened. This guy, if he gets to the ground, and he does, almost every fight he gets to the ground, Cole, he's so dangerous on the ground. Yep. You're right. He's like one of those guillotine guys. He just locked. He's like Cody McKenzie, but a way better version, kind of. Like there's these guys. T. Quinn Zhang was another guy. You get your neck years ago. I like Minner. Okay, Cole. 2 fights left. Ketlen Vieira against Yana Kunitskaya. Right now we got Vieira minus 265. Yana plus 225. Who do you like?
Yeah, I don't really expect much of this, but I think Ketlen Vieira is just going to kind of grind up Yana Kunitskaya against the fence and just kind of win a decision. Vieira is someone I like to fade. I took the shot on Marina Aldana. I don't think Vieira is as good as everyone thinks. Like that Kat Zingano, she went split decision. Then she was this massive favorite over like a year and a half later against Irene Aldana, and Aldana knocked her out. And then she beats Ajara Eubanks. Like Eubanks is someone like I still can never pick her fights. I think she's gonna win. She loses. I think she's gonna lose. She wins. But Kunitskaya, like history's kind of showing itself when she fights these stronger girls. She just kind of loses like Aspinall, Chris Cyborg, Evinger. Like she has a hard time against these wrestlers, these grapplers. But I think Ketlen Vieira is just going to be able to take her down, kind of hold her up against the fence, just kind of win a boring decision. Yeah, no, I definitely like Vieira in this fight. I like her a lot. I think she wins probably by decision. You know, it could be a finish, but probably decision here. Yana's pretty tough, durable in general. The thing is, Yana has got to win by getting takedowns, and Vieira has excellent takedown defense. I think it's going to be, she's going to have a huge problem getting to the ground. On the feet, Vieira, a bit of a bigger fighter, longer fighter, younger fighter, better striker. I know she got knocked out by Aldana. It's a different fight. Yana doesn't have power on the feet, in my opinion. I like Yana. Seems cool. Like her and Thiago. It's a cool couple and everything, but don't like the matchup for Cole. Also, this is a really weak co-main event. Come on. This is a bad co-main event. I don't know why you put one of the heavyweight fights in it. Terrible. It should have been Tom Aspinall or Chris Daukaus. Give a prospect of shine. What, like Vieira, I guess, maybe she gets a title shot with this win. Maybe that's what the plan is. Give her Amanda Nunes. Like, there really isn't anyone else for her to fight, Cole. And she is ranked highly. Okay, main event time, Curtis Blaydes, Derrick Lewis. Right now, Curtis Blaydes, minus 400, Lewis, plus 325. Who'd you pick? I like Curtis Blaydes. I think he'll just going to out-wrestle Derrick Lewis and then eventually get a hold of the neck to submit Derrick Lewis or ground pound mode. I think it's going to be similar to that Cormier fight where Lewis just has a hard time stuffing the takedowns and eventually he will get up a couple times, but then eventually just kind of gives up, or not gives up, but just kind of like allows the position, just kind of try to work off his back. But I think Curtis Blaydes, even if Lewis gets up 5 times in a row, Blaydes is still going to shoot. His cardio, I think, is better than Derrick Lewis. I do worry about Derrick Lewis' cardio over 5 rounds, but I like Blaydes here, probably by submission or ground pound TKO. But you can't count out Derrick Lewis. Like, this guy just needs one shot, and we've seen Curtis Blaydes get knocked out before. Yeah, that's the thing. Everyone's kind of like just assuming Curtis Blaydes wins this fight, and he should win. I mean, on paper, obviously, he's the better fighter, better wrestler. That's no doubt about it. The guy's incredible. He averages 7 takedowns per 50 minutes. Like, he gets you to the ground. Here's the problem, Cole. What happens if he gets tired? If he can't get the finish? What happens if the fight stays on the feet? Who has the advantage? Derrick Lewis, no doubt about it. Here's the thing about Derrick Lewis. He is a hard guy to bet against, I think. Because even the fights, Cole, where you think he's going to get destroyed, somehow he wins these ugly split decisions. Or he comes back in the 3rd or 4th round and knocks him out. The guy's
got this incredible ability to come back late and win. It worries me. So yes, everyone's putting Blaydes in their parlays from what I've seen. I got to be honest, Cole, I don't think I can. I got to stay away from this one, I believe. I'm still picking Blaydes, guys. Don't get me wrong.
I'm not. You cannot lay minus 400 against Derrick Lewis.
Yeah. My pick's going to be Blaydes. I think he gets him to the ground, beats him up. What do you think, Cole? TKO? Ground and pound?
Yeah, I think he's finished this somehow. Either ground pound TKO or just submits. I'm like...
Some people are saying submission. Yeah, I mean, that's something to keep in mind. What's the prop on that? Let's see. Blaydes by sub. I don't even think it's out there, is it? Oh, Blaydes by sub. Plus 400. That's bad odds. Even plus 125. If anything, inside the distance at minus 180 is a much better bet, I think, than him minus 400. Again, guys, I don't like. There's 15 fights in this card. There's like 10 fights with pick 'em odds. Why bet on this fight with minus 400, Cole? It seems kind of like an unnecessary risk, in my opinion. He probably does win, guys, but you know how many times I bet on Lewis and he's come back and won in the third round by knockout, Cole? Like it's crazy, So we'll see. And then Daniel says main event Oleinik fight, not go the distance parlay. I just checked the odds on that. Daukaus Oleinik doesn't go the distance, Cole, minus 525. So that's I don't think that one goes the full 5. What about Lewis by knockout? You think it's a possibility at all?
I think you could put a small thing on it and just
kind of... what? I'm actually looking at it. Lewis himself is 325. Knockout's only plus 350. So there's really no extra value. Yeah, I wouldn't even touch it. All right, I think that's it for the preview, guys. I'm going to take Marcus's question. Marcus is here, and he's got a really good question. I actually like to get Cole's thoughts on this one. What are your thoughts on ESPN's statement in Ariel Helwani's defense against Dana White's douche comment? Okay, so just to get some context here, we did talk about this a little bit yesterday with Marcel. Basically, Gina Carano, former Strikeforce fighter, former Elite XC fighter, she had a comment or a picture on her Instagram. Very just bizarre, anti-Semitic comment from what I've seen. Some people are saying it's not anti-Semitic. From what I saw, how could it not be? Ariel was clearly offended. He put out the 10-minute video where he basically explained why it was a problem. Gina Carano got fired from Maldor. I think that might have been before the Ariel thing. Anyways, Dana White came out. He said Ariel's a douchebag. And Ariel got like a bunch of people from ESPN tweeting about him, saying like, he's a great coworker and stuff. And Dana White and all these fans are going after the guy now. And now ESPN came with a statement saying, we stand by our reporter. What's your thoughts, Cole?
The statement really wasn't much. Like all they said was we stand at the Ariel. Like it was one sentence. It wasn't. They waited a couple of days for it. Like I was expecting something like so many people reached out to them. They said no comment at this time. Like and then that was their statement. You could have sent that out right when the first person asked. Like,
dude, it's like a 10-year-old kid could have wrote that statement.
Yeah, it just says we stand with Ariel. He's a great reporter. Oh yeah. Okay.
Dude, okay, first off, I know Ariel for 10 years. I respect the guy. I mean, he's the best journalist we've ever seen in the sport. There's no doubt about it. The guy he's helped make the sport where it is. Like he's played a huge role in the sport. So I respect him. He got called a douche, dude. Who cares? Like, how is this even a story? They wrote a statement because the guy called a douche. I would have laughed if Dana called me. I would have been like, yes, Dana thinks I'm a douchebag. That's awesome. I don't know, Cole. That to me,
I would have sent the clip to all my friends.
I know. I'm like, dude, look, they know who I am. No, I'm kidding. Listen, I think it's more the anti-Semitic stuff that Gina posted. Ariel was very upset about that. No problem with that at all. I mean, the guy has his right to be offended by that, especially as a Jewish man, quite frankly. So no problem with that. I just feel like, the statement wasn't much of a statement, Cole. And I don't know. The guy it's not like something like you got to look at the comments. I looked at the comments. People are like, what happened? What happened? Like Dana White called him a douchebag. They're like, that's it? That's why they came with the statement? So to me, it's like, listen, Dana's a bully. We all know that. Dude, he's a bully. We all know that. He called Loretta Hunt the C word. Loretta Hunt was one of the best journalists to ever cover the sport. She got bullied out. She's still doing a little bit. I'm going to talk to her soon, actually. She's great. But she got bullied out by Dana White, Cole? He said much to me, calling a woman the C word is much worse than calling some dude a douchebag. Don't you think? So to me, it's like, I don't know. I like Ariel a lot. I'm not saying this is even really him. The other people are like Jeff Passan came out with this really bizarre, weird tweet saying like, I love Ariel. Happy Valentine's Day, man. Like, got your back. And I'm like, it's kind of weird. Like, I don't know, Cole. If I got called a douche call, I really wouldn't expect people to be standing up for me. I think they would just laugh at it. But it is what it is. Hopefully, we can move on from this. It all stems back from the Brock Lesnar thing from like UFC 200, Cole, where Ariel broke the fight with Mark Hunt. Dana was pissed. It's all stems from that. You got 30 seconds, Cole. Plug your stuff.
Twitter, Aleksei Oleinik. The show's Oleinik, Daukaus, Gordon, Close. Fighter picks for the main event, talked to Charles Oza, and I did this cool story, talked to Jose Caceres yesterday, the only man to beat Kamaru Usman, kind of broke down how that fight went out and how it even came together.
Yeah, great story. Great idea for a story. At MM Martin podcast, MMAOddsbreaker.com. So our YouTube's a bunch of places, DJPen.com, MMARings.net, MyMMAnews.com, Cole. I got some other stuff in the pipeline. Hopefully I can announce it this week. I'll be back on Thursday, 10 a.m., guys. Hope you enjoyed the breakdown.